Thank you, Lupe. The history of Illinois has been intertwined with the birth and the growth of our nation since before the Revolutionary War. Everybody knows this is the land of Lincoln. Fewer people know this is the land of Elijah P. Lovejoy, who gave his life because he wouldn't quit printing abolitionist editorials. This is also the land of George Rogers Clark's fight to keep the British out of Illinois during the Revolutionary War down in Kaskaskia. And even before the Europeans came, the Illini Indian Federation had to fight the Sioux and the Iroquois to keep their lands. Our fertile soils and abundant resources have kept Illinois at the center of the ongoing push for progress and liberty. Not every fight has been won by the forces of freedom. The Northwest Territory was established by the Northwest Ordinance, which said that the Northwest Territory and all the states that were to be formed in it would be slave-free. And yet, the Lincoln-Douglas debates illustrate that the issue had not been settled. And it took the 13th Amendment to settle the issue, or so they thought, yet we still had to pass civil rights law in the 1960s to deal with the issue. On other fronts, the issue of gun rights is being fought right now, taken from Chicago to Washington in the form of the McDonald versus Chicago lawsuit headed to the Supreme Court. So now we look to our future governor, and we ask one very difficult thing of him. Help us to write the next chapter of our history as a time when freedom and responsible government triumph. And do this in spite of the disgrace that we call our modern day politics.
Thank you, Lex. All right, so Lex left me with a very interesting introduction, right? The disgrace that is modern day politics. But unfortunately, he's a little right, isn't he? I mean, in Illinois, unfortunately, in the last several decades, seems to be leading the way in that regard. We have corruption, we have bribery, we have these concentrations in power where they shouldn't be. But what I think is one of the worst things of all is that we continue to pass on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, even on our state level, we continue to pass unconstitutional legislation, and then we then send it to the executive branch and they enforce that unconstitutional legislation. But I don't want to come here to, before you tonight and dwell on, the bad things. I want to, let's look for the hopeful things. The hope is that you're here. Look around yourselves. It's October. It's not close to February. We still have many, many months in these elections. February we have the primaries, and then in November we have the general elections. This is a long time. Politics is excruciating sometimes. After all, you're here because this is your government. This is our government. We created government. We limited it to specifically listed, enumerated powers. We even took the time to write it down. So if I could, I'm going to ask a little poll, and I want everybody to be honest with themselves, okay? Who here in the last 2 years has read at least 2 paragraphs of the United States Constitution? Raise your hands. All right, great. Well, hopefully then I got about 3 or 4 more minutes. I'm going to be speaking to the choir. But now, again, be honest with yourselves. I'm going to ask you one more question. Who here in the last 2 years has read at least 2 paragraphs of the Illinois State Constitution? All right, good. I'm glad to see some hands. And I don't say that, I don't ask that question to make you feel bad about yourselves or anything, but to prove a point. That we elect, officials, and then all of a sudden we get up in arms, how could they be doing these things? How could they be voting unconstitutionally? Well, we as citizens, we need to understand the rules of government, and that means we need to understand what the Constitution, both at the Illinois and at the United States level, says. I'd like to take this time to share with you what I think is one of the most important parts of our Illinois State Constitution. It is within our Illinois State Bill of Rights. Yes, we have a Bill of Rights. We actually have 24 different sections, not just 10. Article 1, Section 1 of our Illinois Constitution reads, "All men are by nature free and independent, and have certain inherent and inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights and the protection of property, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers They're just powers from the consent of the governed. Sorry about that. There are 4 very important points that I'd like to bring up about this legislation, about this Article 1, Section 1. Number 1, rights are inherent. That means you have rights because you are a human being. You have God-given inalienable rights, and that is so important. Number 2, Article 1, Section 1 talks about property. You see, rights come from property. They are derived from property. Now, if you just think of land, obviously that sounds a little silly, but I mean much more than land. For instance, think about it. Who owns your body? No, I'm serious. It's not a rhetorical question. Who owns your body? You do, exactly. You own your body. If you don't own your body, what does that make you? A slave, exactly. Now, because you own your body, when you own something, you can do with it what you want. You can make your own decisions. If I own myself, I can own, I own my decisions. I make the decisions I want to. I'm free. I'm independent. And that's very, very important. Number 3, Article 1, Section 1 talks about the explanation of why governments actually exist. They exist to, quote, secure these rights and for the protection of property. You see, we instituted government to protect our rights. There's a lot of things that government does right now that it has no right doing. But we instituted government because the primary reason of government is to protect our rights. Not to protect us from ourselves, but to protect us from people that might actually come and infringe upon our rights. And the last thing, number 4, Article 1, Section 1 deals with the explanation of where government gets their power from. And it says the government gets its power from, quote, the consent of the governed. Well, that's you. That's me. Because we give government power. We give it privileges to protect our rights. The government doesn't give us rights. The government has no more power than what we are willing to concede to it. And I think that's very important, and it's at the cornerstone of our constitutional republic. A lot of people ask me, Jason, why are you so into politics? You like politics so much. And I look at them, and very honestly, I look at them and I say, I hate politics. I don't enjoy it. It's not a fun game. And what they normally do is one of 2 things. They'll normally look at my car, look at my desk, or look at what I'm wearing, and they'll see the Constitution, Campaign for Liberty, stuff about liberty, freedom, and stuff, and they'll look back at me, and they'll do one of 2 things. 1, they start laughing, because they think I'm sarcastic, and they think I'm telling some kind of horrible joke, so they try to laugh to, appease me. Or 2, sorry, hold on one second. Number 2, they look at me like I'm crazy. They look at me like, of course you like politics, look at your desk and everything. But I have to, explain to them. I talk through the different ideas that are expressed in Article 1, Section 1, that individuals are inherently free people. I just got a chill going down my spine when I said that. That's what motivates me. That's why I'm here. And I want a government that actually is there to protect my rights. And that's why unfortunately, you got to play that game that's called politics. It's not always the most fun one to do. But just because we have a pretty decent constitution at both the state and national levels, we have good foundations for our constitutional republic. At the end of the day, they are unfortunately just words. They are just pieces of paper, and that's what it requires us to actually get involved, to know what those pieces of paper are, so we can hold our elected officials accountable. And we're making a great step, everyone in this room, by being here tonight. Because we're taking part, we're very early, it's only October, in the election process. And for that, I commend you. But we need to make sure that we elect people that are going to, take their oath of office seriously, that are going to uphold their promises. So with those thoughts, just a little reins, to tuck away, and I encourage you to look into Article 1, Section 1, those principles of individual liberty more. But with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to Lex. He's going to give you an overview of tonight's event. I hope you guys have a great time tonight. Kick back, enjoy yourselves. You're going to have a chance to submit questions. I hope you have a great time, and I also encourage you, when you leave here tonight, don't just leave here with a better idea of who you might vote for, or which campaign you're going to get involved in. Well, actually, get involved. Get involved in those campaigns. Get involved in some of the groups that were up here tonight, and let us get our country and get our government back to we the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.